Welcome back, everybody. This is the Schwarting Report. Class is in session. Please take off your hats. Pull out your pencils. Number 2 pencils preferred. Put away your phones, right? Old school rules here. Of course, if you're watching on your phone, disregard that. But yeah, we are back to review Beşiktaş's August of 2025. Is that really what year it is? My gosh. Of course, I am Sinan Schwarting, your host, and the host of course, the Schwarting Report. Who else would be hosting said podcast? Today, I am rocking a jersey that some may be familiar with. And because last episode, I gave a shout out to Jedson Fernandes, this one, giving it one to our boy, Arthur Masuaku, who deserves a lot more praise than I think he'll probably get from our fan base. I'd like to think that people would be a little bit more appreciative of the input that he put out there, but you know, it seems like the fan base is a little divided. I'll say I think he'll go down as a good left back in our history books, but when everything's said and done, yeah, I do. Sorry about that. Just making sure my mic is properly hooked up and all. You know, don't really like wearing the headset, but it produced a better quality product at the end of the day, so that's what we'll go with. Yeah, but so here we are. Let's talk a little bit about this month. Slight change up to the format. I'm going to talk about the results, but in a much shorter way than I feel like that takes up too much time. Obviously, you know how we've done if you're watching this podcast, and you probably know in depth how we feel about those matches if you watch the usual podcast, the regular weekly one. And if you want to know how we feel, you know, go back and check those out. We obviously label them easily for everyone. But so I'm going to shorten the sort of review of the match thing so I can focus more on player performances and the like. Gotta stay hydrated, right? But yeah, obviously I'm gonna also keep talking about the coaches and management. That's gonna be probably a big part of talking about Beşiktaş this month. But so in so doing, I'm gonna shift that to the beginning, right? We're gonna take more of a macro look and then focus on the micro, the individual players, and again focus most of our time on that, as we tend to do with the power rankings and all that. But yeah, I'm going to shift like our financiers portion up to the beginning of the show so that we can, you know, kind of take a more holistic approach to the club and how they performed over the course of the month. But then also, you know, narrow it down as we get further in. So the more interested our listeners are in the details, the longer you'll stay tuned. But obviously, in talking about August of 2025, we have to talk about a crazy month. Tons of matches played. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 matches played, which is already pretty nuts for a month in terms of competitive matches. And of course, 2 of them were canceled so that they could accommodate European play. So in years past where that wouldn't have happened, I mean, this could have been a 10-match month, which, you know, on the one hand, it's good that didn't happen. Obviously, there are question marks. You know, we have to play Konya and Kayseri again at some point, and we're not going to be allowed to have new players registered after those matches. After those dates, rather, they're not going to be allowed to be on the squad. So like Thailand, Ndidi, you know, guys like that who weren't with the club when we were supposed to play Konya first, was it? Or no, Kayseri first, right here. Those guys won't be able to play in that match because they weren't registered by that date. And so what that means is that it's going to be a question mark as far as who we can field. I mean, who's going to be on the squad by the time those matches are played? We'll find out. Transfer deadline is coming up. I think it's exactly a week away at this point. So, of course, stay tuned for that. That's going to be a pretty important theme for, of course, our next main podcast. And then, you know, next Schwarting Report, we'll have a full holistic review of what the board accomplished in the off season. Real quickly, to talk about what did happen in the month of August. That's enough, you know, back end talk, I guess you could say. Obviously, against St. Patrick's, we started off on the road in Ireland. João Mario got the scoring off, got us started in terms of scoring. An assist by Rafa Silva. Tammy Abraham scored the second goal of that match, and the third goal, and the fourth goal, a penalty. But so yeah, he had a hat trick in our first competitive match of August. Great start for the club, obviously, on the road, no less. Things were looking up for a brief moment. Obviously, then we were supposed to play Kaiser. That match was postponed. The next match was again against St. Patrick's. We went down 2-0, and suddenly it was like, are we going to screw this up against St. Patrick's? And we didn't. We actually came back and won. Demit Egetiknas scored in the 43rd minute. Tammy Abraham in the 49th minute, assisted by Rafa Silva. So that's 2 assists in 2 matches in the month of August. Seems like he's going to have a good month, right? And then João Mario scores the final game winner, assisted by Jonas Svensson. And so João Mario, 2 goals in 2 matches for us. 2 big ones, no less. The opening goal and the game winner against Lausanne. Yes, I'm having a coffee in my Beşiktaş espresso cup. Yes, it is super late at night, but I have a night of editing and uploading and sharing and all that ahead of me. So late night coffee it is. But so yeah, where were we? St. Patrick's. So yeah, nice start to the month for us. Obviously a little bit of a scare, but then we start the Super League proper. And boy, quite a match, a very entertaining one. We go up on a Tammy Abraham goal, a penalty. How about that? It's what, 4 goals? 5 goals already on the month, actually. 2 penalties, but whatever. It's going to have like at least 1, right? Or 2. It's not crazy. And then, of course, a wild game winner in the 96th minute. Rafa Silva, assisted by Gabriel Paulista. Beautiful pass from the back. Guns in a shot after what was kind of a mediocre performance on his end. Maybe not even. Maybe that's kind. But he absolutely went crazy there. Scored a beautiful game winner. We're off to the races, as you will. Ole, sort of undefeated in the month so far. Not just undefeated, right? Perfect month so far. And next up would be Lausanne, and somehow, what the hell? Anyway, somehow. Like a crumb from my pizza, like stuck in my mouth. That hurt. Anyway, what was I just saying? Lausanne, right? We so somehow the management does not support our coach. So no, the board does not support our manager in the way of Ole. Does not provide him with wings before this match, as they should have. Where this is a huge match for us. We definitely need to be in Europe. And for some reason, they're not giving our coach the support. They say publicly, sorry, let me turn myself up here a little bit. They say publicly, Europe isn't that important to us. Ultimately, what is the results and the way that we get results, and that's not even the way they phrased it. Just the way that we're playing. That the coach is still backed by his players. They're committed to Ole and all that. They said. So we go into Lausanne, even though they don't support the coach by getting the players he needs. We still don't have any wingers. We manage a 1-1 draw, and it's a wild match with a sort of crazy 3-man back line. Interesting approach from Ole, and it seems to kind of work. It's important to note we were going and playing on AstroTurf. Terrible pitch, and it was rain on top of that. So he even said that he sort of made these adjustments tactically to accommodate the pitch they're playing on, and there's some injuries already in the squad. And so, it's an interesting one. We see Rashica, sorry, phasing out here for a minute. He played as a right wing back in this one. One of his better performances actually in a while, you could say. But yeah, we managed to draw on the road despite those factors: new tactics, injuries, not properly supported roster, if you will. And so, yeah, I mean, there are some question marks. It wasn't a pretty draw, I think we could all agree. But, nonetheless, we had the vast majority of the ball, even if they had majority of the sort of shots, but they weren't very high quality ones. You know, I mean, Rashica, by the way, scored that goal in the 45th minute of the match. Was he assisted? I don't think so. I don't think he was assisted. No, I think he might have taken the ball off of someone. And anyway, whatever it was, a kind of middling result. You'd hope for a little better, but again, lots of weird factors at play. And so we come home against Lausanne for the deciding second leg. We do not score, so I have nothing to report. We do get a red card right at the beginning of the second half by Felix Udokai. That basically ends this as an encounter. We were very much the better side in the first half, actually. I obviously did my second watching of the match, careful, slow, pausing to see who did what all the time. I mean, my rewatches take sometimes 3-4 hours, which is nuts. But, yeah, I mean, I was surprised, actually, how it really was starting to feel in that first half like we were starting to play a certain way and pass the ball around, and we were probing, maybe a little too precocious, right? A little bit too, trying to pass the ball into the net as we've done at various stages in these last couple of years, right? Under Gia, that was a problem. It was sort of looking like a problem this one. And then they score totally against the run of play. But we come out in the second half, I'm sure we're feeling like, oh, we got this, man. We're going to win this. We were the better side. They didn't deserve that goal. Just completely folded. Gave them a clear path to the goal for their one opportunity in the entire half. All right, we'll get this. And then Udokai comes out and makes a stupid tackle. Let's be honest. I don't think it was actually worth the red. Again, the rewatch. It's very clear he contacts the ball first. Nonetheless, the ref makes the call. That's why you don't make that type of tackle, because you open up the opportunity for the ref to mess up the game, and he did. And so we go a man down. We still are knocking quite a bit in that second half, although they are more potent, as you'd imagine, having the extra man. And they win that match. We're out of Europe, and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is fired. Three wins, 1 draw, and 1 loss with a partially completed squad that's starting to actually look like it has a coherent methodology at play. A few days after the Serdar Adale gave us all the assurance that Ole was going to stick around, that we were sort of seeing through a contract finally. We were working towards stability, consistency, professionalism. I mean, he even highlighted why it was important for us to keep a coach a few times when he made those assurances this summer. And then fired him and brought in the guy that he was rumored to have wanted in the first place, which just makes it look like he was waiting for the opportunity to fire our coach, because he slipped up just once the whole month, really, and it cost him his job. Sergen comes in, obviously. Same poorly constructed roster that Ole had. We shit the bed. 2-0, we lose. Better in the second half of that one. We should have at least scored once, right? El Bilal Touré came in, was a lightning rod. But, yeah, I mean, I don't even know what to say about the Ole thing that I haven't already. If you want to hear my rant, I went off 2 episodes ago on the main podcast. I will say that I think it's the height of amateurism that we once again fired a coach. We had problems going into the season, which is that we had a 3/4 constructed roster. I mean, we knew it might be a few transfer windows until we had a really, tight unit. We really had so much to come out from underneath as far as getting rid of players. And even now, all the guys we've gotten rid of successfully, they're all gone out on loan. So they'll be back next summer. We're going to have to deal with this all over again, I suspect. But there it is. Sergen loses his first match. I hope he succeeds and that we actually see out a contract and have some semblance of a normal club for some extended period of time where we don't just keep changing the coach every time someone in social media has a titty attack, excuse me, sorry if any ladies are listening. We use language like that all the time on the podcast, and everyone's like, oh, why do they do that? Anyway, where was I? Let's talk a little bit about, trying to figure out where to put my cup is where I'm, okay. Where do we begin our analysis? Obviously, middling results. Nobody wants to see that. But like I said, we're going to look at the big picture. You know, Ole, I'm not going to grade Sergen for one match with a poorly built team. And you could probably make the argument that Ole shouldn't be graded too harshly for the same reason. Although he did go 3-1-1, so it would be pretty weird to grade him that harshly to begin with. No one could ever say he didn't tinker, that he didn't try new things, right? He, like I said, had a 3-man back line in the first match against Lausanne, so he could adapt to the sort of conditions of the pitch. I mean, he was versatile as a coach. He was clever, shrewd. He had a way with words. I mean, he seemed to be sort of cerebral, right? He took that time off working in UEFA to sort of try to get a grasp of where the game had gone, where it's going, try to understand things, you know, what he could do tactically in the modern age. I feel like we were starting to get a taste of that, perhaps. Obviously, we didn't get to see it bear fruition. It didn't come into fruition. It didn't get fully fleshed out. And I think it's just another example of a coach who we didn't give enough time to really cook. And so we don't really know what the outcome might have been with him in charge, you know, for an extended period of time with a full squad. I mean, the irony, of course, is that we brought in a winger like the day after he left, so it's like insult to injury, perhaps. But anyway, I think before I really start analyzing performances and, you know, the coach, we've got to talk about the board. And I mean, I think you give a sense for how I feel about Serdar Adale, but really we need the financier to weigh in. And, you know, I don't know if he's available, right? He's gone on vacation. He caught us at the airport. He did weigh in last month, you know, hazily, right? The sound was a little off because he was probably on the beach somewhere. I mean, all we can really do is hope that he'll... Oh, is that... I think that might be him.
Sinan, great. You picked up. I was worried there for a moment that you might have run up to a monastery. And I have to tell you that I'm disheartened, just like Sergen and you. And for me, mainly because I've never seen a person contradicting himself as much as Adala. And the bad news is he's not done. Every day another plot twist, another turn. So, well, somebody please give us the strength to deal with this for the coming 3 years, because this is unbearable at times. So I'd love to hear your take on it. But as always, the scoring is up to you. So here goes the update. Starting with sponsorship and branding. As you've seen on the shirts already, we have a new sponsor on the shirt, Kaber Jappe, a real estate company. And, visible branding move that raised some eyebrows because we don't know the financial details of the sponsorship. And another one, Beşiktaş, a telecom provider, was launched in Germany in a joint venture, aimed at obviously the diaspora fans. And apart from this launch, the name will also be visible on the socks, which you already saw in the games, further reinforcing the club's push for overseas marketing, I guess. And the last one, the naming right for the south tent of the Beşiktaş Stadium. They are now called the Gain Stand, and this this sponsorship agreement, is for the 2025-2026 season only. So let's see what it will, what it named next year. Moving on to the structural and financial strategy, the board approved the increase of the capital ceiling. This is an expected move, and this prepares the groundwork for a further future capital injection, which took place just like the one that took place in May. There were talks, plans of Adala to appoint a sporting director. Nobody is appointed yet, as suggesting a reform. But we can already say it will be difficult to find a candidate with King Sergen in charge now, since we've seen the news on that. So most probably this plan will die on the drawing table. Another development is the Committee for Youth Development that will be established, aligning with other states' commitment to reinvigorate the academy, which is also part of a broader theme of a rejuvenation of the club organization, both technically and structurally. But as of now, it's mostly talk. The cumulative cut over just 8 months from transfers, installment payments, stalled acquisitions, and debt service represents a substantial financial burden. Yet we still lack coherent public accounting. So I think in a month's time there will be a general meeting again, and then we will see the outcome of that. And last but not least, a protocol was signed for the development of Beşiktaş Plaza building, for Building C, notably involving a candidate for upcoming Divan elections, which raises questions about mixing politics, business, and infrastructure in the club. Next topic: transfers. Who came, who left? Well, I'll leave the transfer talk up to you, because I can imagine your power score is also changed because of that. But I just want to add that Felix Urokai's loan became permanent for 5 million. And I want to mention that because I believe it was not widely reported, but he's fully ours now. Governance and external relations. The board, Adala met with the TFF to discuss refereeing standards and fixture assignments, especially around Beşiktaş's schedule. Public reaction centered on whether the club got preferential treatment or further disadvantages, but the board offered no official comment or explanation on what was exactly discussed. And obviously we still don't know if you can celebrate Halil Umuttaller's retirement. And then the big elephant in the room, coaching shuffle in a swift turn, some would say planned turn, but what I have to label as a disclaimer or label as a conspiracy. Beşiktaş sacked Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, of course, on August 28th, following a disappointing exit from the Conference League, as we all know. The announcement was short, abrupt, and left many questions unanswered still. One day or 2 days later, on August 30, the club confirmed the return of familiar face Ergen Yalçın, as we all know, signing to the 2026-27 season. It's a move steeped in nostalgia. He also previously delivered a League Cup double in 2021. And obviously he was a preferred candidate of Adala after the elections in January. So we were not surprised, to say the least. While most of the technical staff was fired in the wake of Ole, Edward Graaf's position within the structure remains uncertain, and my best guess is he will be sacrificed as well at some point in the near future. But let's hope he's not, I would say. So what this means for August: transfers. Beşiktaş shelled out considerable sums, spreading payment over multiple installments over multiple years, like a consumer with too many credit cards, betting on a future bailout for the incurred debt. The left wing and right back crisis remains unresolved. The coaching change signals a crisis response rather than proactive planning. Replacing Solskjaer with Yalçın with Sergen might provide short-term stabilization, but doesn't solve structural problems. This month was unwanted chaos again, reinforcing the squad too late, changing the manager and scrambling to regain direction. But with big money transfers, waiting for big names, and the managerial flip, the stakes and expectations just got higher.
Sounds like that got cut off a little bit by I don't know what, but anyway, yeah. Boy, URAL, my friend, thank you for showing up. Let's talk about grades. This is not the current 1. Ha! How about that? Technical error on my part, and I put last month's grades. But I do have our grades for this month, if I can find them. Let's see how I do in that regard. I will say, by the way, URAL, thanks so much once again for coming through with your end of the deal. I think that everybody can agree that this was not a good month for for the board, for the back room. It was most certainly not a good month for people in the back room, as you can see from my grades. I mean, I'll start with Ole, a B minus. 3 wins, a draw, and a loss with a partially completed squad. I think he did somewhat admirably given the conditions he was working with. Obviously, right? Sergen comes in working with the same team. It ain't easy to work with a team that's not very well built by the front room, by the back room, front room, front office, back office, whatever you call it. So yeah, I mean, 3 wins, a draw and a loss. Obviously, a draw and a loss against Lausanne is not what you want, but you know, second half, the decisive half of these 2 legs was us playing a man down because of a boneheaded move by Felix Udekai, right? So I think you can't really view Ole too harshly in light of that. Again, and I think he did the best with what we had, with what he had. And again, we were the better side. We actually were playing good football in that first half. It's a shame what happened, frankly. But anyway, let's talk about the players. Obviously, Serdal Adala, I give him an F minus. Actually, let's not talk about the players yet. Sorry, I forgot. To follow up on what Ural was saying. Where do I begin? Firing Ole was a disaster. It was a terrible decision. It makes us look bad as a club. We're becoming a meme in this regard. We've had so many managers in such a short time that it's now a kind of joke even in foreign press, right? When people were reporting that Ole was fired, that was kind of the context that it was reported in. Here they go again, you know, silly Beşiktaş, and for good reason, right? You don't fire a coach before he gets the team he needs to do his best job, right? Especially given the holes in the squad. He didn't have any wingers. It's not like he wanted to go out there and play with two wing backs and no wingers ever in his entire career. It's not entirely clear why we thought he was going to do the best job he could as such. But here we are, and he has been fired, and I think it looks terrible on the part of Serdal Adala that he brought in the guy who he initially wanted and then sort of defaulted to get Ole when he couldn't get him in the first place, and then fired Ole the first chance he got, the first sniff of an opportunity, he got rid of him and brought in the guy he originally wanted, which just, you know, gets all the conspiracy theorists out there, their minds working, and for good reason, right? I mean, it doesn't look very serious. It looks very much like this man was set up to fail by not having been given the transfers he needed to succeed, and by being discarded the moment he gave them any reason to discard him, and then to be replaced by the guy that reportedly was wanted in the first place and all that. I mean, it really looks like it was kind of cooked to be this way from the outset, unfortunately. Now you look at the performance of the players; they look really good. These are obviously, again, right, 3, 1, and 2, and those wins were definitive ones, well played, big wins that buffed these guys' stats. You see, Fatma rated these guys this month quite highly, and again, Fatma was drawing their stats from, you know, big sources around. That I'm unaware of, to be honest, like Opta and all that. And I don't really do that stuff. And to be honest, this is why I do what I do now and do my extended rewatches and do, you know, just to give you guys a sense again, as I tend to, right? Like, all the pluses and the minuses, and I really analyze every player, every match, and try to, really get a semblance of how well they played for this exact reason, because, these stats don't really do a very good job, these, advanced stats even, of really giving you a sense of how well these guys played. For example, Milot Rashica, right? 7.33. Wow, he must have had a great month, especially comparatively to other guys. Not really. Guys like Mert, even Paulista, 7.26 looks really impressive, but he had one of the better months if you look at how I devised things here, how I analyzed our players. And so, Udokai 6.8, he obviously had a rough month, but Mert 6, certain players positionally don't accrue stats in a way that gives them the ratings here, that really reflects their impact on a match. Like Jurasek, 6.92. He actually had a pretty solid month, all in all. But anyway, this is what advanced stats give you as far as the numbers go. My grades, a little different. So Merritt, I gave him a B-. He actually had a really great outing against Lausanne when we lost. And he didn't step out of place at all this month until Alanya, where I thought he was quite bad. And his ability to just keep passing the ball, these long balls that just, he turned it over like 20 times in this match unnecessarily. He could have just passed it short on the ground to one of his guys who could have brought it up, and instead he just gave it away time and again. And I don't know if he was instructed to do that or not, but either way, like if he was instructed to distribute the ball like that, he did a poor job. So he still got a lot of points off from me, but anyway, just a B- for him. Felix, I gave him a C-. I think we all know why. I don't want to say he got Ole fired, but if management was looking for one loss in order to get rid of him, that was a huge part of how he got that one loss. So I'm sure he feels some burden of guilt in that regard, perhaps. But Paulista, a B+, really good month from him, ironically. He was having a really good game. Anyway, we'll talk about individual performances as you are. Anyway, as you can see, I don't even need to go through all their grades individually. You can leave it there. The things I will highlight, because we're going to obviously review everyone's individual performances when we do our power rankings. What I will mention is our teacher's pet, Emirhan Topçu, and I really wanted to talk about his performances in a highlighted way, because I've been hard on him. I've talked about how he's a little bit erratic and undisciplined positionally, especially like when other people in our fan base were really getting hyped up about him and how good they thought he was. I was noticing when I was doing my rewatches, just he was careless and he was kind of playing a hand in goals scored against us often, and there were a lot of problems in his game. And yet, this season so far, I feel like he's been really good, even to the extent where, like, when Ole was playing him at left back, people were like, what are you doing playing him? And I could kind of understand, just given how well he was playing. He was almost, you had to play him. And obviously, it helped. Jurasek was sort of struggling to settle in initially. People were very critical of him in the fan base as well, so you can't really even put that entirely on Ole. But, yeah, Emirhan Topçu, really the teacher's pet this month. Class clown, Serdal Adali. I don't know what this guy's doing, man. Honestly, the transferring has been subpar since Orkun, basically. We're waiting. He's missed key deadlines so that we could, for example, still be in Europe. In a way that almost made it look like he was undermining his coach, so he could fire him, which is obviously conspiratorial. But those are the theories that start flying when you do stupid stuff like that. Just a terrible month from Serdal, and like Vaclav Černý, welcome to the club. We hope for the best. I'm excited that he's obviously going to be a right winger, so Milot Rashica won't. But too little, too late, right? We still need a left winger. There's so many holes in the squad, and even the guys we've gotten rid of, we've just loaned them, so they'll probably be back. And if they do go, like for example, if they do buy him out, it's going to be because he was probably worth a lot more than 8 million. and that's what we're gonna get if they do buy him out. So, like, I don't know. I don't want to be too negative, but just a terrible job by them. Anyway, yeah. If you want to see my grades, check them out there. Highest grade went to João Mario with an A-. I'll talk about why when we dig into the power ratings. Lowest grade goes to Ernest Mucci, who had a D. Terrible month from him, ironically. As far as why I put like Rashica there as a right wing rather than Mucci or someone else, like even Rafa played as a right wing, I had to figure out like who played the most as a right wing for Beşiktaş in the month of August, and it was Rashica. Rashica played 2 full matches as a right winger. Nobody else did. Taylan Bulut actually played second most as a right wing. Although, I mean, it's debatable. Like, Mucci played a game and a half. 2 games and a half, but he played some of as a left wing, and then, also partially was like listed as this, and then switched to the other side. It was really hard to decide who to pick as the right winger for this board here, the starter. But I went with Rashica just based on like minutes played at the position. So, anyway, take a look at those numbers if you want. That's the advanced stats from FOTMob, and then my little grades for them. Saved by the Bell was Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, and I think his leaving is probably for the better for him when you look at the big picture here, because we are clearly in a mess. And I honestly do hope for the best for him. I hope he goes on to have a lovely career as a manager. I think he's got it in him. He's a smart dude. It's a shame that he was treated the way he was by us. And I don't think he deserved it. But yeah, Saved by the Bell. Happy tides, happy tidings, happy trails. That's whatever the expression is. Yeah. Well wishes to Ole, and it's a shame that it ended the way it did. But yeah, I'm sure he'll be fine. Let's talk about the power rankings. The worst player for Beşiktaş in the month of August was Emre Can Terzi, which a lot of people were like, what? So Emre Can had such a poor outing in his last appearance, which was the draw in Lausanne. He came on in that match and played terribly. That for us as fans, he went from a possible rotation option to persona non grata. Apparently Graf and Adala agreed too. He was loaned to one league side Serek Belediyespor right after the match and was replaced by Ridvan Yilmaz. Welcome aboard, kid. Yeah, I mean, it's rough, right? And you're punished for playing very little in my power ranking system, right? Because again, my rankings rank how much of an impact each one of these guys had. And so if you played very little, you would have had a small impact. And if you had a small impact and your one performance was a negative one, that's what happens. Sorry, Emre Can. It's rough. But, the proof is in the pudding, man. The kid literally lost his place in the team because of how poorly he played in that match. Moving on. Number 24, Tayfur Bingöl. Also, he only finished ahead of Emre Can Terzi because he didn't play especially poorly in his sole appearance. So he only played once in the month off the bench in the big win in Ireland. He just didn't really stand out much at all either. We've gone from having a negative performance to just not really doing anything, and there's going to be a whole bunch of guys who didn't contribute much and just incrementally just performed a little bit to sort of supplant the next guy. So Amir Hadziometrovic, for example, right, another singular performance in the St. Patrick's match in Ireland, another non-event at the back end of this month's power rankings. Amir was a good servant to the club and will be missed. Wish him the best at Hull City. Yeah, I mean, if he was Turkish, he'd probably still be on the team. That's what I'll say about him. He's only been discarded because he's foreign. We can't use a foreign spot for a guy who, doesn't really command much of a spot on the team. Seriously. Number 22, Mustafa Hekimoğlu. Mustafa also only made a single appearance, also against St. Patrick's, though in the home encounter, so in the second leg. Sadly, as has been the case of late with poor Mustafa, it was marred by injury. He did look very energetic in his brief stint, and I remember in the preseason there was some concerns about how he looked. So it was kind of good to see him come out and give it his all. Sadly, it didn't amount to much for him. Next up, Tayyip Talha Sanuc. I don't know if anyone's noticed this, but he's always listed as Tayyip. By the way, sorry your name's covered by the logo, but if you have that many names, it's going to happen. If you're in the 21st slat. If you're in that slat, that's just what's going to happen. This is the Schwarting report, kid. Anyway, Tayyip/Tayyib. I don't know why he's always listed with a B, like on if you Google him, for example. I'm going to stick with the B. I think it's kind of funny. He made 2 very brief stints, but is here simply because he appeared more than once, right? All the other guys only made 1 appearance all month. He had just as minimal of an impact. Minimal of an impact? Is that? I don't know if I phrased that right. I think I did. Perhaps that he appeared twice and didn't earn a red card or allow a goal as progress from him. Granted, it was against like St. Patrick's, but I think actually he might have even appeared against Ayob. But yeah, I mean, at this point, because of Thiago Jallo, I don't think we're going to see, I mean, unless we get rid of Paulista, I don't think we're going to see much of Tayyip, Talha, Sanuc, or, where's Nejib? Oh, Nejib didn't even appear. But there's Thiago. And I don't think we're going to see much of Tayyip because of Thiago Jallo, number 20 on this list, this month's list. Thiago has only just arrived and only appeared once, and he gave up a clumsy penalty in that only appearance, which is the type of thing that usually gets you on the bottom of the list, right? 1 appearance, right? Minimal opportunities to accrue any kind of stats, and a markedly negative thing to happen to you. But he really grew into that match, and he actually looked good by the end, so he didn't even get like a negative rating for that match in the end. I think it was real close. But just because he had sort of big moments that were like bad, but then lots of small good out, you know, he really did grow into that match. I think I said enough about Thiago Jallo. Hopefully we'll see more of him, and he'll continue to become more comfortable out there. I think he's a guy who didn't play a lot in his last few stints, coming off the bench and whatnot, so there could be a settling in process for him in general. But yeah, like I said, I really, by the end of that match against Alanya, he looked good. Number 19, Ernest Mucci, who did play a lot and still finds himself this low in the power rankings, which should say everything. By the way, supposedly he's on his way out. 2 traps, and I already mentioned that. On loan with an option to buy. He'll probably be back next summer if how he's played for us is any indication of late. Ernest Mucci is a bit confounding, if we're honest, right? He was actually very good in Ireland, but then terrible at home against St. Patrick. Supposedly Sergen gave him the chance to step up. You know, he told him he'd give him every opportunity to earn a spot. And then he saw something in him or something along those lines, you know, if you're to believe rumors. But then he came out against Alanyaspor and followed up that opportunity given to him with a complete dud. He was terrible. So that got him, you know, the pink slip. See you later, Ernest. Honestly, I do hope for the best for him. Whether it happens with Trabzon or, you know, if he comes back next year and somehow earns a spot, I don't see that happening. But I have no hard feelings for the guy. He got taken out of his position for the most part when he came to us. Played out of position on the wings. Never really settled in. Looked a little better on the right wing when Ole tried him there. Sorry for the ambulance sounds. New York is New Yorking. But yeah, I don't know, man. Just not a great tenure for Beşiktaş, sadly. Right above him, which is interesting, is El Bilal Touré. A new guy. First appearance on the Schwarting Report Power Rankings. For a guy who's only been able to make a single appearance, off the bench no less, so far, having just arrived, anyone who watched the match against Alanyaspor knows how he made it this high up the power rankings, right? Just loads of energy in that match. Totally almost turned that game around. Looked like he should have scored 1. I mean, he actually botched a really good chance and got like a red minus from me because he should have put it away. But, I mean, he was also just omnipresent, really, when he came on. Looks like he'll be a great addition. And I expect him to rate higher and higher up the power rankings, right? I mean, he did this with just 1 appearance. So, yeah, hopefully we see more of that. Speaking of 1 appearance, number 17, Ersin Destanoğlu. Also, only had a single opportunity to impress this month, but impress he did. He played well enough in the draw in Switzerland that there were quarters of the fan base calling for him to play over Mert, which is really good to see, right? We saw him minimally last season. He didn't really show up at all, and I think anyone who saw him against Lausanne would agree that he looked really good in that draw. He was one of my higher rated players for the match. I think, let's see. Excuse me. Getting stuffed up. Yeah, he was, for me, the 4th highest rated player against Lausanne. So, pretty good from the kid. I don't even know if you can be qualified as a kid anymore. But moving on. Number 16, Kenny Arroyo. Kenny. Gone. Also, Cruzeiro has... again, alone with an option to buy, I think 8.5 mil. We could actually make money off him, which is crazy because he never really got much of a chance to feature for us. He did make 2 appearances for us this month. If social media activity figured into these rankings, he'd probably be in last. Was doing the prayer emoji to fans, speculating he could be leaving us before any of us knew that was in the books. So very unprofessional on his part. He's just a kid, so you don't want to hold that stuff against him too much, but yeah, just not a good look from him. 2 middling performances with flashes of upside early on in the month. Pretty much the story with this kid in his brief stint with us. Hasta la vista, baby. That's a shout out to Khan, who loves Arnold. I'm going to have to blow my nose for a second. Sorry. Excuse me, don't know what came over me there. Anyway, number 15, Thailand Bulut. And there's a little bit of magic in the fact that he ends up right above Kenny Arroyo, even though they both really factored in minimally this month. Thailand was proof that Ole et al. Had no problem playing kids. He got off the plane and was on the pitch within seemingly the day, right, against Ayub. He played in the next 2 matches before getting benched in Sergen's debut. Hopefully that's not a thing. Emirhan also got benched by Sergen. I don't really know what's up with that. Yeah. Kid came in and like had a few nice crosses. Got a lot of our fans' attention with just a short amount of playing time. But yeah, it was good to see. He looks like he'll be a talent. Quite young. But yeah, it's just ironic that Kenny, the thinking was like, is Kenny not playing because Ole doesn't play kids? Which was already like tenuous because he spoke so glowingly of Mustafa and played him a lot. When I think a lot of us were kind of like, does he really deserve playing time? And then he actually, I think, proved to a lot of us that maybe he did. So we should have been doubting the narrative that Ole didn't play kids to begin with. But then Thailand got off the plane and got onto the pitch, basically. So that should have really put it to bed. Anyway, Milot Rashica. Milot's last performance was as a right wing back in the first leg against Lausanne. I think he's injured. Maybe there's more to it. Who knows? That performance as a right wing back was probably his best performance in quite a while. Again, he scored. Still not very good, sadly, to be honest, right? With Vaclav Cherny already with the club, his days as a right wing are numbered. And I don't think anyone's going to be mourning that. He'll probably feature as a left wing if we don't bring anyone else in before the transfer deadline. I think all of us are hoping we will, though. Number 13, Jonas Svensson. Right, and now we're getting into players who've actually played a lot, right? And so these rankings are starting to mean more, I think. Against Ayup, we saw the worst version of Svensson. In our 2 recent back-to-back losses, he's been back to decent form. Will he be on the squad when all is said and done? No idea, but he'll play every match till he leaves probably, because that seems to just be how this whole season has gone. He's been gone multiple times, replaced, and then turns out the other guy's not coming, and he is going to keep playing. So let's see how this goes, if that's going to continue for the rest of the season, if he is in fact going to be our right back for the rest of the season. It's worth noting that he's in 13th, right? Which is not good. He's a regular starter, so you'd think he should be in the top 11 as such. But that means that 2 bench players have supplanted him as far as their performance as the top 11 players. So that's not a good look for a starting right back, but I don't know. Like I said, he started out poorly, and for good reason. He'd been told he was replaced on numerous occasions, and then seemed to not be. So there was a lot of adversity to play under, but he played. Number 12, speaking of bumped out of the starting 11, Felix Udokai. Even us Felix fans have to admit this wasn't his finest month in the black and white. 2 really bad performances in a row against Lausanne stood out as examples. He was good against Ayoub prior, but then just okay in Alanya on Sunday. A lot of people thought he was quite poor against Alanya. I reviewed his performance. It was close to bad, I'll say that. But yeah, it wasn't a net negative for us actually at the end of the day. Number 11, Kartal Kayra Yilmaz. Kartal season. Excuse me, man. I don't know what just came over me. Suddenly I'm like sick. Anyway, Kartal season has already been a bit of a roller coaster ride. In 2 recent losses, he's been at his worst in the preseason, and his first few competitive matches, he was much, much better. Don't know what to make of that. Hopefully he stabilizes. That's true. He was really bad in the loss against Lausanne. He actually made it into the red for me, and then it was also really bad against Alanyaspor. He was given the start by Sergen and then was pulled in the second half. Rightfully. Yeah, he was not good enough, sadly. Yeah, so where are we? Rashica, Svensson, Udokai, Kartal. But so Kartal did make the starting 11, so it's worth noting his performances did. He outperformed Felix and Svensson, is what I'll say, which doesn't help us because he's not a right back or a central defender. So it's just not good news that we have 2 starters who are underperforming. Number 10, Mert Gunok. Mert has also shown flashes of both his best and worst so far. He put on a great performance in the loss to Lausanne. Even in the green, like he stood out. Down a man, right? He made a number of great saves for us. But then he showed his ugly side, giving Alanyaspor the ball over and over again with terrible long balls. Again, I'm not sure if he was instructed to do that or not, but either way, he didn't do a good job of distributing the ball. Number 9, David Jurasek. A bit of a... depends who you ask as far as how people view this player. I've kind of come around on him. I think he's put in some good performances as the month progressed. More Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde-like stuff in this portion of the power rankings, but we're getting incrementally better. A lone bright spot against Alanyaspor and one of few in a sad midweek loss to Lausanne. It's worth noting those are our 2 most recent performances. So like I said, he's getting better and better. I think it's safe to say he is probably going to stick and be our starting left back this season. He's been good. He's been good lately. Although he started out poorly. I'm not going to lie. Like he was, I believe, let's see, which match was he in the red? Against St. Patrick's, the second match. I put him in the red as, having a particularly poor performance. But then again, he was in the green against Alanya. I think the only player in the green? Yeah, the only player in the green. Indeed, he was close. But anyway, moving on. Now we're getting there. These now we're getting to like good performances for the most part. Demir Ege Tiknaz. Demir Ege had such a poor start to competitive play, right? Like in late July against Shakhtar. But a key play to help set up the game winner against Ayoub. I think you'll all recall the one I'm talking about, where he brought the ball down and tried to distribute it, led to the Rafa goal. As well as I think he had the second goal against St. Patrick's in the comeback win. Maybe the first, I don't remember. But so yeah, a key play to help set up the game winner against Ayoub, followed up by a great performance off the bench against Alanya, most recently in Sergen's debut. And things are looking up for the kid. It's good to see. He really had a number of us doubting him based on his first few performances in the season competitively. So yeah, good to see him bounce back. Number 7, and it's, I gave him my teacher's pet award, but he's in 7th. People are like, what? That doesn't seem right. But again, right, like the more you play, the more chances you have to earn points for my power ranking. And so he's sort of marred by being in a competitive position, right? He's competing with Felix Udokai for that spot. I do think Sergen should have played him instead of Thiago Jallo. It just felt like you were throwing him into the deep end. Jallo, I mean. But and just also because Emirhan has played so well this season, and he's historically paired well with Felix, even though they're both left-footed. So anyway, Emirhan quietly putting together a very good season. He's out of position at left back and was forced to play there in some of Ole's more creative lineups. But even there, he seemed to figure it out a little, towards the end of Ole's stay with us. He's steadying as a player, mentally, performances. He's really becoming more and more reliable, which you love to see. And right above him, number 6, Gabriel Paulista. It's sad. It's a sad side note to Paulista's month that in the match he left at halftime with an injury, again, in the loss at home to Lausanne, he was having a monster game. He really was. He had a howler at home against St. Patrick's, for balance, of course. Get well, Gabriel Paulista. Yeah, seriously. Apologies again for that. Yeah. Good month for Gabriel Paulista, marred by injury. And apparently he's out for like 3 or 4 weeks now. There's a possibility he's outgoing by the end of this transfer window. There's talk of us getting another defender. I think the way the fans have turned on Udokai and the way his performances have turned, there's a chance it's him that's outgoing, but we'll see. Anyway, number 5, Rafa Silva. 5th is a bad month for a guy who was a runaway number 1 in last season's power rankings, and yet I bet many would have expected him to land even lower, given how much he's been struggling at times so far this season. My rebuttal is that he needs an outlet. He needs wingers, right? It's so easy for defenses to key in on him and shut down the middle of our midfield, which in turn would impact a guy like Orkun. You wouldn't know it, though. He's performed quite well. Although he'd probably have some goals and assists, if not for the fact that the center of our midfield is so easily keyed in on by defenses, too. So Orkun could be even better for us, if not for that fact. That fact being that we don't have wingers! Serdal, get your shit together, man! But so yeah, Rafa hurt by that fact. Still, a goal and 2 assists. A game-winning goal, no less. But yeah, we all expect to see more from Rafa. It was sort of a disappointing month for him by his standards. Obviously, statistically a good month because he's a really good footballer and he does things well in general. Even when he's not having a good day, he does a lot of good things. And I've noticed that too. And when I'm giving my little pluses and minuses, on matches where I'm like, man, what a terrible outing from him. You look at it and he had lots of great passes that could have resulted in chances, or where he put it out to the wing and then there was no cross following and stuff like that. So yeah, hopefully we get wingers and his performances improve as defenses are less and less capable of just honing in on him and trying to shut him down, right? Which they wouldn't be able to if we had someone else to go to for chance creation. Now we reach our top 4. Number 4, Wilfred Ndidi. Ndidi has been stellar since arriving and would easily be atop this list if he had played all month. In 3 of his 4 matches with us, he's been among our top 3 best players, twice rated as a top contributor. And so just to give you some of, now that I'm not constrained by the little box there, I'll give you some more information. So his first match was against Ayup, and it was his worst. He was our 8th best player by my approximation. But against Lausanne in the draw, he was our best player, the only player in the green. And then against Lausanne in the loss, one of 2 players, he was also our best player. So twice in a row our best player. Merritt was the only other player in the green for that match. Lots of guys in the red, sadly. And then against Alanyaspor, he was 2nd best player. Jurasek was the only player in the green for me. But yeah, just to give you a sense of just how monstrous his performances have been since his arrival. Obviously, Ayup was his first match. He was like fresh off the plane still, basically. But yeah, did great. Has done great. Is great. Number 3, Tammy Abraham. Tammy started out the month red hot, scoring and getting plenty of action against St. Patrick's. Again, 5 goals, right, in those first few matches. But as the chances have dwindled, so has the striker's impact. He and Rafa have been hung out to dry with no wingers as outlets. Yeah, he's another guy who's hurt by that lack. But yeah, I mean, excuse me. How do I describe Tammy's performance? He's been, I think, positively received because he's done well. And again, he's hurt by the lack of chances he's been given. But his mentality has been great, right? Everyone remembers how he responded to Shakhtar. Obviously, that was last month. But, you know, he's still on the pitch, very vocal, very involved. You know, you hate to see the team not performing well because, you know, that you don't want to see his enthusiasm diminish, curbed. You don't want to see him curb his enthusiasm. But yeah, you know, a great start, obviously. Five goals this month. I don't know if anyone had that last season at all. I think Chiro had a couple good months, but I don't think he had any 5-goal months, even when he was performing well early on. So yeah, hopefully more. I think he needs to have a breakout, you know, from this little slump since the beginning of the season. Lausanne and Alanya have not provided much for him. Anyway, number 2, João Mario. João keeps getting listed as one of the players we're offloading, and it is fucking confounding. Few players have been as good as he and none as consistent. You'd be hard-pressed to find a more versatile, talented, selfless player. For my money, I don't know if there's a better player in the Turkish Super League coming off the bench. Of course, the problem is that he hasn't been coming off the bench because we have not had a left winger, and so he's been playing slightly out of position, and he's been so good. 2 goals, right? Do you have any assists? I don't think so. Just 2 goals, but key goals and every performance, even when he's just come off the bench, like against Alanya, he came off the bench for Sergen and was again a steady contributor, kind of steadied the ship a little bit. He's just so good. I don't know why people hate on him. I don't know why he's on the transfer block. I think it's ridiculous. More about João Mario incoming because, you know, I think people are going to be shocked when they see the seasonal power rankings, but they shouldn't be. He's really yet to have a bad performance this season, honestly. Make of that what you will. Number 1 this month, Orkun Kökçü, and I think a lot of people will be surprised by that. To see him up there, right? No goals or assists feels subpar for a guy who you spent all that money on, and yet he has been the fulcrum of the club. He's been the best player on the pitch in Ireland, both of those matches, actually, and consistently among the best in just about every other match. He was literally number 1 in Ireland in the first leg. But yeah, I don't think people appreciate how much he's all over the place, getting into the mix, stopping the opposition, turning defense into offense. He's one of our guys in the group chat, Uzcan, good dude, one of the twins, Cartel's twin, was talking about how he should be more of a 10 and, you know, we need another 8 because we should be accommodating that and putting Rafa on the wing and da-da-da. I think you're doing a major disservice to our team by putting Orkun at the 10 because he needs to be on the ball as much as possible. And that 8, he can just be all over the place, as he should be. Frankly, give that man a wing. Give someone to give as an outlet for him when he's, you know, in that sort of deep lying role, and then he'll get forward and probably contribute more in terms of assists and goals as well, because he'll have sort of somewhere to put the ball and then to run on, and he'll be, you know, have momentum as he receives the ball if he has those opportunities. So yeah, I think he's one of the guys who will actually who will benefit most from us having winners, and even winners, sure, yeah, but wingers. But even still, number 1 this month. Just consistently good performances. Plus, he's played the most, actually, of anyone. Just every match, he played all match almost. which is going to help you with my particular brand of analysis. But yeah, so there it is. If you want to see the full list, there it is, from Emrecan Terzi all the way at the bottom: Tayfur Bingöl, Amir, Mustafa, Tayyip, Thiago Jallo, Mucci, El Bilal Toure, Ersin Destanoğlu, Kenny Arroyo, Taylan Bulut, and Milot Rashica on the back end. And obviously on the front end, you know, a couple of guys displaced out of the starting 11 by Kartal Kayra Yilmaz and Demir Ege Tignas, which is actually kind of good news. It means, as we were hoping for in the preseason, those guys have provided valuable depth, and they're actually playing above grade, which is good. What's not good is that Felix Udukai and Jonas Svensson are playing below grade. A bad month for Felix. I haven't lost faith in him. For Jonas, we'll see what that means for him. I don't really know, to be honest. Last month, only 19 guys played, and so Demir Ege Tignas was the worst player. So to go from 19th last to 8th, that's progress from him. Rashica also, from 18th to 14th, right? I mean, he scored a goal obviously in Europe, but yeah, I mean, in general, a pretty. July was a weird month, just 2 competitive matches. So these guys didn't accrue many points, which meant that what you see here for last month, and I'll leave it up for a second for folks to just take a look at. But what you see here was not a real reflection of very much. It was 2 matches against Shakhtar, 2 really bad matches, with some surprises, right? Paulista was our best player, but it's because we were terrible and he had a lot to do. This month, when you take in what I judge the players for having done in August, and you factor in what happened in July, we get the cumulative. And take a gander while I blow my. So as you can see here, João Mario is our best player so far this season, and I'll be honest, like the top, 5 or 6 guys. Let me see. Is it 6? No, our top 5 guys. There's like a 10 point, like the points that are accrued. You could get 10 points easily within a single match. So there's not a big difference. The top 5 is going to change a lot. I don't think João Mario stays on top by any stretch. But it's interesting to see him up there, and it's nice that we'll get to say that he finished a month on top, especially if they actually get rid of him before the season, the transfer window closes, and he steadily drops down and down throughout the course of the season. One wonders how far he'll drop, how many points he's accrued, and how many points others will be able to accrue to sort of supplant him up there. But I hope he sticks around, and he really has been good enough to merit that spot so far this season. If you think about it for a moment, just consider, right, the Shakhtar matches where he was the only one being a positive contributor, and the St. Patrick where he scored. I mean, again, he scored 2 goals this month. He's really has been our most consistently good performer, so it isn't actually surprising for me to see him up top. That said, people were worried that I was going to be hard on Tammy Abraham. There you go, number 2 so far in our seasonal power rankings. Orkun, number 3. He hasn't played as much. He came a little bit late. I expect him to probably, last season it was Jedson and Rafa Silva who were the only 2 that were sort of relatively competitive at the top of our power rankings. I predict Orkun will certainly threaten Rafa. We'll see. I mean, I expect Rafa Silva, who's in 5th place, by the way, I expect to see him put in better performances, obviously. I'm curious to see where Vaclav Černý ends up. He's starting a little late as far as our power rankings go. But yeah, I mean, let's see. From our starting 11, who's not in the starting 11, right? Jonas Svensson is in 13th on the season. That's not good. Felix Udukai is in 10th on the season, so he still at least merits that. Kartal Kayra Yilmaz is in 11th, so he's the guy who's taken Jonas Svensson's spot. So he has, all in all, had a pretty decent season. It's worth noting he was considered a pretty good contributor against Shakhtar. So he finished in July in 6th. He's dropped into 11th. So We'll see how this goes. Ideally, your 11 starters are in your top 11 in the power rankings, right? And so if that's not the case, that's maybe worrisome. Anyway, but yeah, so there it is. Ahmedjan Tezi ends at the bottom, and he's very likely going to stay there, right? Because he's gone now. So he'll probably, I mean, he will be back next year. Hopefully, he gets some valuable experience. I mean, his story isn't as tragic as all that. I think he's almost been done a disservice by playing so little and having a bad outing in that one performance. But all the same, yeah, too bad for the kid. What else is there for me to say? Not much, right? It was a up and down month for this club. Mostly down, if I'm honest. You know, the results don't reflect it, but when you look at the way that we got rid of a coach who shouldn't have been gotten rid of, undid a project that was just in its infancy, really, right? Just starting to come together. I would say it was a bad month, but here we are. Giving out my grades, gave you my power rankings. I don't know how much more there is to say about the club. I suppose now is where I do my report on something pop culture related. It's worth noting on a personal note, I am trying to write a novel. I went to school for that. I almost gave up on the whole thing. Found my passion for it. Again, very recently, not very recently, but anyway, have written a full novel, working with an editor. It's been a painstaking process. I got in my last deadline this week. What was it? Tuesday. Was staying up till like 6 a.m. every night, working till I couldn't keep my eyes open to get this thing out. In a weird way, because of the hours I was putting into it, and I have to do it at night, when my wife and daughter are sleeping, so that I can fully concentrate. So, it was like I transported into the world that I had written. And because the time zone was so different, now that I'm not writing anymore, it's like I'm dealing with jet lag. Like I've returned to reality, and I need to start trying to fix my sleep schedule and all that. I'm obviously recording the Schwarting report at a ridiculously late time. So at least I'm still working into the wee hours of night. But yeah, it's an adjustment. But so that's why I don't really have much of a pop culture report this month. I mean, my stack of comic books, where I usually, I once suggested the One World Under Doom series. Like I've still got all those to read for that. I have a whole comic book binder just full of comics I haven't read yet. I can't close it, and you can see how behind I am on all these comics we subscribe to that I haven't had time to read. My daughter is doing better in that front. You can see back here, these are all the comics in my archive that have been read. These are all series that were subscribed to. The black boxes here and there those are the archives. So that stack of comics that I showed you, and then the binder for just the ones I haven't even read yet. So yeah, I have a lot of comics to read and very little to recommend. There's a new Fantastic Four series that I'm excited to get into, sort of loosely connected to the One World Under Doom stuff. So anyway, with that said, no pop culture to report on this month because I've been so busy making my own. I guess maybe that's what I'll say. My report is to follow your dreams. If you ever wanted to be a writer or a musician or a painter or whatever your dreams might have been, a business owner, I guess it doesn't have to be artistic, but do it. Why not, right? In a world as dark as the one we live in, be the light. Sorry to be so corny. But yeah, thank you for tuning into the Schwarting Report. As always, class is over. I didn't get the school bell ring. I wish I had. Yeah, thanks for tuning in, as always, to our Patreon subscribers and our YouTube VIP members. Enjoy our special feature here, the Schwarting Report. For those of you who are watching a week late, that's what you get for not subscribing. This is outdated and probably not very interesting because it's like been so far removed from where we are as a club already. Well, maybe not because we have this international break, so you might be fiending for Beşiktaş content. If that's the case, I'm glad to have served you. Yeah, stay tuned for the next Schwarting report at the end of August, where we will review. Sorry, at the end of September, we'll review September. It is already September now, and we're reviewing August. Okay, my brain is still sort of working, I swear. Anyway, yeah, stay tuned for next month's Schwarting report, where I and Le Financier will be back with more review regarding what this club has been up to, and where I'll dive in and really kind of go over individual performances and remind you what we are dealing with as fans of this club. Signing out, as always. Peace in the Middle East. And yeah, I'll see you on the real show in a few days, probably. So until then, later.